Hello everybody, how goes it? Rabbitsmore here, and in this video I'm going to be going over the new features of the 1.9 snapshots that have been coming out over the past couple of days. And although the 1.9 update was originally called the combat update, it's kind of misleading because the snapshots have been mostly about the end instead of actually combat. So there's a lot of cool new features that have been coming out, so I'm going to be going over them pretty quickly here so we don't end up with a super long video. And first and foremost is dual wielding. As you can see, I'm holding two swords. I'm sure you noticed that right away. And that is the dual wielding mechanic. And how it works is whenever you right click, it will activate your offhand, although it only works if your first hand doesn't have a right click ability. Like you can see here, when I right click, it actually just blocks with my right hand sword and it doesn't do anything with my left hand. And if I left click, it just attacks my right hand there. So you can't actually use two swords. It's mostly just for looks. But how dual wielding works is, you can see when I take this item out of here, we have a new inventory slot, just like our armor slots here. This is our offhand slot. So whatever we put here will actually go into our offhand. You can see when I put the diamond pickaxe here, it appears in my left hand over here. I take it out, it goes away. And if you want, you can use the default key of F to put something in your offhand. So if I scroll over the pickaxe and I press F, you'll see that it goes into my offhand there. And now whenever I left click, it'll actually use my fist on the left, and right clicking doesn't do anything because right clicking doesn't do anything with the pickaxe. So again, you can only use the offhand if it's something that you don't have a right click in your first hand. So now if I right click, it will actually guard with my sword, and if I left click, it punches. So other ways you can use this are, if you put a pickaxe in your main hand, you could have something like, say, these torches. If I press F, put them in my offhand, and I switch back to my pickaxe. So now whenever I'm mining into a tunnel, I could mine out some blocks and I could right click to place the torch, and I don't need to switch items to be able to do that. And you could also do things like have your whatever kind of food you want in your offhand while you're mining. And then whenever you get hungry, whenever you're mining, you could just hold down right click and eat without having to switch to that. And you could do things like have a water bucket as well if you're digging near lava and all of a sudden you fall into lava. You wouldn't need to switch to the bucket. You could just immediately right click and put yourself out to save yourself. So it's something that'll take a little while to get used to since we're not used to having the two items on the screen, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of cool things that people find to use with the dual wielding later on. The next new feature is the chorus plant, and this is actually a plant that is now naturally generated in the end, and I'll show you how to find that in the end later on in this video. I just wanted to show it out in the sunlight so as there's a much brighter area, but this is how you will find them when they're in the end. They'll be fully grown into this really tall, weird tree-like structure like this, and they get pretty big. And you can harvest them by using an axe or whatever else you want to break them. An axe is the quickest way to break them, and they act kind of like a cactus where if you break the lowest one, the rest of the tree will just instantly break. Although the only way you can replant them is having the flower, and you can see these bigger bulbs on the end of these stems here. Those are actually the flowers, and those won't drop if you break the bottom one and let it break all of the rest of these. So you can see I didn't get any flowers out of that. The only way you can get the flower is by actually breaking the flowers on the ends of the stems, so you will have to like pillar up to get those and break them at the tops. But something else is that you can only use the flower to plant them, and they will only plant on end stone, so you will have to have some end stone, but you can plant them in the overworld. As you can see right here, I'm allowed to plant them here as long as I have the end stone on the ground, and they'll start naturally growing up into the really tall structure again. And another thing you can do is limit the height of them. If you build something above them, they'll actually grow up to it and then stop growing. So you won't have to pillar up to break the flowers anymore, but you might get a little less of the chorus fruit that drops from them. And as you saw when I broke the taller one, these chorus fruit started dropping. It seems to drop about 1 for every 2 of the stem pieces that you have. And you can eat these to restore some hunger, and they will also teleport you randomly. So you'll see if I go into survival mode here, if I eat one of these, it teleports me completely randomly. There's no real way that I can tell so far you can tell where you're going to go. It's just completely random. But you can definitely use that as a kind of way for transportation or a way to save yourself if you are falling and you're about to take some damage or something like that. And the other thing you can use with these is you can throw them into a furnace. You could throw the chorus fruit into the furnace, cook it up, and it turns into the popped chorus fruit. Now the popped chorus fruit is actually the way how we can build the new blocks that have come out with this snapshot. And you see if I put it in a 2x2 right here, it turns into the purpur blocks here. If I grab a bunch of these, I can use these to make slabs. I can use these to make stairs like this. And if we do a slab on top of a slab, it will give us the purpur pillar blocks. So these are all of the new blocks here, and you can make them with the fruit from this plant. You can see what they look like here. Got the pillar and the block and the stairs here. And these pillars here, if I switch back over into creative mode, I can show these are directional, so how you place them affects how they look. So if I place them straight up and down, you can see we have the flat side here and the pillars on the sides, but if I place it on the side, it would go sideways just like that. Something else I want to mention real quick is that these course plants do not need a light level to grow. They'll grow regardless of if you have light or not. So you can grow them during the night or the day, and you don't need to place torches next to them. And another thing is another new block that came out, and that is the end stone brick. If you use end stone now and put it in a 2x2, you'll get these end stone bricks, and these look just like this. It's kind of like sandstone, pretty similar, but a little more of a yellowish texture. So another cool new brick that you can use to build. Besides chorus fruit, there was another food added to the game, and that is beetroot, which you can see here in my first inventory slot. And this is what it looks like when you find it naturally in your world. So far, the only way to find it is in villages and their farms. And you'll find it like this here, these bright red plants growing out of the ground. It grows kind of like wheat does. So if you break it, you'll get some beetroot and seeds. If I was in survival, they would have actually dropped there. And you can plant the seeds again to get it going. And it grows in stages, just like the other plants in the game, until it is at fully grown state. And again, you can break it to get these seeds and beetroot again. And these can also be harvested by villagers, so you can use it in automatic villager farms if you have something like that. The other thing you can use these beetroots for, besides eating them and getting a little bit of hunger back, is you can actually make a soup out of them by putting a bowl in the bottom and 6 beetroots above it. It's kind of inefficient since it's a 6-to-1, but it's something you can use as another means for food, even though it's not that great. Next is the new grass path block, which you can see here. It has its own texture and it's slightly shorter than the grass next to it. And how you make the grass path block is by just right-clicking with a shovel on grass, and it will turn into the grass path block here. And you can also see at the end here, where you can see the sides, it has its own texture on the sides as well, kind of like a dead grass that's been walked on a lot. So like the name implies, it's really good for making paths, and it does use durability off of your shovel. If I was in survival mode, you would be able to see that. But yeah, pretty cool block, and you can't pick it up by using silk touch, so keep that in mind. The only way to make it is using a shovel. And with the bow has had some pretty dramatic updates at this update. There have been a lot of things with new arrow types, which actually each of these arrow types has a type of potion effect on it. And they would normally have different colors, but it looks like they've been broken in the new snapshot here. But you can see the arrow of weakness would have a potion of weakness effect when it's shot at a player or a mob. We have potion of strength added to it, regeneration, poison, harming, and a lot of other cool effects, and the spectral arrow, which is a completely new arrow. I'll quickly show how those work. First of all, I can put these arrows into my offhand if I want with the dual-wielding system, and it will use those arrows over any other arrows. So right now it is shooting the arrows of regeneration, but if I put the spectral arrows in my offhand and then started shooting, it would shoot the spectral arrows, which you can see there with the yellow tips. And the spectral arrows, which I'll show how those work, these will actually highlight players or mobs when shot. It'll actually put an outline around them, and you can actually see whatever you've shot, if perhaps it doesn't kill it. There we go. If I go underground here, you can actually see it through the ground, and it will highlight it from far away. So it actually just is there to make things easier to hit. So pretty much the only use of spectral arrows is keeping track of things. It'll be really useful in PvP. And similarly, if I put the regen arrows in my offhand, and they don't need to be in your offhand. If I wanted, I could just put them on the bar here and it would still use them. But putting them in the offhand does make sure that they're used over other arrows. Now, if I shot something with the the arrow of regeneration and it didn't die, it would actually give it the regeneration effect, and you can use it on yourself. You can see if I switch to survival mode here and I shoot myself with the regen, you can see in the top right with the new status effect update, the new icons will now show in the top right whenever you have any sort of status effect on yourself. You can see I got regen from that arrow though. And this does work with infinity, so this is an infinity bow, and it doesn't use my arrows. So that's kind of broken, since I can actually have infinite regeneration that I can constantly shoot on myself and give myself regeneration or whatever potion effect that I wanted to give onto myself. Alright, so now I'm going to quickly go over the rest of the features that I can show without having to go into the end. So first off is maps. Maps still, when you right click them, they'll still do the same thing that they used to do with the two hands, but now if I press F and put it into my offhand, you can see we have a mini version of the map, so I can keep that there and put whatever else I wanted in my other hand and keep doing whatever I wanted to do. So that makes maps much more useful since they don't need to take up your full screen anymore. So I'll take that out of my hand there. Next up is fishing rods. If you look down at the icon here, as I cast the fishing rod, it actually just gets rid of the hook and brings it back. So nothing new with the fishing rod aside from that little graphical update there. And you can see here with glass panes and iron bars, when there's nothing next to them now, there'll actually just be a little stick or a pole going up and down, which is pretty cool actually. They used to be like a plus symbol or a cross whenever they would have nothing next to them, but now when nothing is next to them, they are just kind of a pole. So that'll be cool for doing certain types of builds. You can make like a lightning rod on top of a building or something else. I'm sure that people will come up with really cool things to do with these. And next up is the splash water bottle, which so far the only thing it does is puts out fire. So if I go ahead and light up this netherrack, go up above it and throw this splash water bottle in the middle, you can see it puts out the fire all around it. And it does just put out the fire in the immediate area of where you've thrown it. So in a little plus symbol like you saw there. So if I threw one right here in the center, it would put out the two sides there. Or if I just threw it on this one, it would only put out that one. So it does a plus symbol of putting out fire. And so far, it's the only thing that this is used for is actually putting out fire. Next up are trap doors, which don't actually require anything to be next to them anymore. So they used to need a block on the side like this here. But now if I go ahead and break these out, this would have used to actually break the trapdoor. These would have used to fall on the ground whenever I would break out the block. But now they don't need anything next to them, which is really cool. This is going to have a lot of useful features that will be used in redstone builds and mob farms and all sorts of other cool things. And just making cool aesthetic things like whatever you wanted to build these with. So that's a really cool new feature and probably one of my favorite features of the new update actually, since it will actually bring out a bunch of new things that players can do with them. And next up, if I switch over to survival mode here, and break these dead bushes here. So these dead bushes used to not really drop anything whenever you would break them, but now they have a chance of dropping into sticks. You can see when I break these, we got a couple sticks out of that. Nothing too amazing, but at least they drop something now as opposed to what they used to. And now that I'm in survival also, I can show the new animation that skeletons have. So you can see right now he has his bow down on his side, but if I go into his aggro range, he'll actually pull it up and start drawing his bow. And when I go back out, he'll put his bow back down again. So now these guys just have a new animation for that whenever they're about to attack players. Alright, so now it's time to show the new end features. And the first one is the new Ender Dragon fight. So the Ender Dragon fight has been completely revamped to be a little more like the console edition and a little more difficult. You can see already the obsidian pillars are now going around in a circle around the Ender Dragon's lair here. And the taller obsidian pillars with the crystals on top have been surrounded with iron bars. So you'll actually have to pillar your way up before you can destroy these, or you could drop in from the top to destroy them as well. But either way, it's much harder than just shooting arrows on top. And as far as the Ender Dragon herself, you can see she goes to the center occasionally here to kind of regenerate and go to the center area to defend the area here. If I switch to survival mode, we should be able to see her new attacks that have been the Ender Dragon Breath, which will be a purple dragon breath with particle effects we'll be able to see. And occasionally she shoots a fireball, kind of like a gas fireball. It kind of just shoots out and explodes when it gets to you, and you can hit it back, which we should be able to see if she actually attacks us here. I don't know why she isn't yet. There we go. So we can hear the new sound, and you can see the new Ender Dragon Breath, which actually does quite a bit of damage if it were to hit me, but I am wearing full diamond gear. But that's pretty cool since the previous fight was the only way she could hurt you is running into you. But doesn't look like she's going to be shooting any of the gas fireballs in this example, but you can see the rest of it. And as far as the dragon fight goes, she supposedly in the update notes says that it will actually defend the ender crystals the further you get into the fight. So I'm assuming the more of these crystals you explode, the more that she'll actually stay around the ones that are still there and actually attack you to keep you off them. Oh, and there's one of the gas fireballs there. So before we can go and show the rest of the new features, I'm going to have to kill her. So I'm going to do that off camera here, and then we'll go check out the rest of the features. So now that the Ender Dragon is dead, it does the usual. It creates the portal back to the overworld, and also they've mentioned that there will be a way to respawn the dragon, so you can spawn the dragon and kill it as many times as you want in your world now, but there's no official way just yet to do that. And the other new thing is, once the Ender Dragon dies, it spawns a gateway portal, which you can see over here. It's surrounded in bedrock, and in the center it has the portal-like effect, the weird, trippy, glowing effect there in the center. And the easiest way I found to get into this is to pillar your way up until you're along the side, and then you throw an ender pearl into it. So once I throw an ender pearl into this one here, you can see It takes us off into the distance into one of the other end islands here with all the chorus plants all over it. And there's another gateway here to get back. You just have to throw an ender pearl back in and it'll teleport us back to that island. But these islands will go on forever as far as you want to go. And as far as these plants go, like I said earlier in the episode, you can harvest them from the bottom. You can grab their flowers from the top to go replant them into your world as long as they're on endstone. But the other new feature that is out here that we want to see is the new dungeon, which is the End City. And it is composed mostly of the new blocks. There's one over there in the distance. It's composed mostly of the purpur blocks and the endstone blocks. So I'll show those up close once we get up here. You can see we have the slabs, the stairs, and the bricks, and the pillars here, and the end stone bricks here. And the other new thing here is the end rod. This is actually a light source, and it has the same light ability as a torch, but it's just a new way to light up your world. It's pretty cool. It's a solid block, so you can step on it, and you can place them on the tops and bottoms of blocks, and on the sides of things. So you can see left and right sides here, and top and bottom here. This is a pretty cool new lighting source. It'll be a cool way to light your world instead of using glowstone lamps and torches. And as far as these dungeons go, it's actually pretty standard dungeon of going inside. There's not much in the inside here towards the bottom, but as you get towards the top, you'll start finding chests with good loot in them. And there's the new mob that is the shulker, which is short for a shell lurker. At least that's what it says in the Wikipedia that it is short for. So the shulker here is a new mob. It's a purple block mob. And whenever it attacks, it actually peeks every once in a while to look what's around it. But whenever it attacks, if I switch to survival, you'll see that they'll shoot some projectiles at me. And the projectiles don't go like an arrow. They actually can go up and down and left and right. And they'll actually track you until they get to you. And once they do, you can see at the top right there, it gave me the levitation effect. So this will actually push me up into the air until the effect runs out, and then I'll drop to the ground and take normal falling damage. So you do have to be careful about the falling damage that you can get after being hit by these guys. But if you do get the levitation effect on yourself, you can always use ender pearls to get back down without taking the fall damage, or you can use the new chorus fruit. Since the chorus fruit, when you eat it, it randomly teleports you. It will actually teleport you back to the ground, so you don't have to worry about taking the levitation damage. So the rest of this is, we do have some banners, which is cool. It's the first use of banners in natural world generation in Minecraft, and there should be some chests in here, so I'm trying to find the loot to show you guys. There's actually some really good loot in these. Here we go. Here's some loot in this one. And this one doesn't have too great of stuff, but here we go. They have some enchanted diamond armor and some really good enchanted armor here. So you can actually find some really good diamond tools and armor in these dungeons. So it's definitely a good reward for finishing the end instead of just the old one where we didn't have any rewards. Now we have some pretty cool things to check out here. And I'm going to quickly look around to find one of these ships that can spawn near these dungeons here, and then I'll get back to you guys. Alright, so I found one of these ships in the cities that I was talking about here. You can see it's like a floating ship here over in the distance, and the connecting path over to it kind of implies that you should be using an ender pearl to throw over there to get yourself over to it. But the ship itself is pretty cool design here, and it has a beacon in it. As you can see, I think it has the speed effect. Yeah, you can see in the top right we have a speed effect when you get near it. So you actually can get over to these once you're in the cities. They do have some shulkers in them, which you'll have to be careful about, but once you're in, you can get a brewing stand which has some healing potions on it, which is pretty nice. And on the inside, it has a beacon which you can actually break and gather that. So this is a great way to get beacons. So you can find these around in the end instead of having to kill withers, and you can get some iron blocks out of it. And there are 2 loot chests in it as well, which have some pretty nice enchanted diamond gear in it as well. So pretty awesome loot in these ships here, and another great benefit of the new things that you get out of the end as your reward for killing the dragon. Alright, so there's just one last thing to show from this snapshot, and it is the dragon head. I'm not sure just how to get it just yet, but it works like other mob heads. We can place it on the ground, and we can place it on the wall, and we can place it on our own head and walk around with it. And actually, as you walk around, it will actually open and close the mouth as you move faster and slower. Just kind of a goofy effect that they added to it. And the same thing for the ones that you place on the wall and the ground. You can actually power these with redstone, and the mouth will start opening and closing. And whenever you turn it off, it will stay where it's at, so you could open it or close it and leave it that way on your wall or ground. Not sure why they added that, but I'll take it. Just a goofy addition to the game. So As far as 1.9 guys, that's pretty much it for this snapshot. That's all of the features that are in it. And I hope you liked this video. If you did, you can always like or subscribe. But as always guys, thanks for watching. Have an excellent day and see you later.